He's dropping off dozens of illegal migrants at the articles of impeachment against DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas today. We've learned, is this Senate deal being negotiated going to live? I mean, Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, said that the Senate border deal, any border shutdown authority that allows even one illegal crossing is a non-starter. SUVs dropping off dozens of illegal migrants at the border in Jacumba, California.
According to internal federal government figures, 60% of all unlawful border crossings are now being recorded in Arizona and California. For the week ending February 4th, Border Patrol averaged more than 1,800 daily migrant apprehensions in the Tucson sector and more than 1,200 in the San Diego sector.
The group, appearing to be mostly adult males, made up of people from China, Turkey, Brazil, and India. Okay, so he was arrested over the weekend. I don't understand why your colleagues in the Senate are allowing anybody to come through at this point after we've learned what we've learned. Is this Senate deal being negotiated going to live? I mean, Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, said that the Senate border deal, any border shutdown authority that allows even one illegal crossing is a non-starter.
Into the U.S. illegally, it essentially looks like a combat zone because of all of these troops and razor wire and other barriers impeding the passage of migrants. Now the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, is saying that he will expand this operation to other parts of Texas to deter illegal crossings. And it's important to note that this area has not just been sealed off to migrants, it is also now preventing federal Border Patrol agents from processing migrants there because Texas argues that that incentivizes more illegal immigration. The Department of Homeland Security is saying that this is preventing Border Patrol from doing its job, but Texas is arguing that it is defending itself from a quote-unquote invasion. That is the term that Governor Abbott is using to describe the situation. We obviously have to underscore that there is no military offensive being waged along the border and that most of these migrants are not serious criminals and they're certainly not armed. But obviously illegal crossings are at record levels.
I think it's shameful. I mean, you look, I mean, this matches what I've seen in Yuma, Arizona personally. When we were down there, we saw individuals from China, Ukraine, Uzbekistan, Africa, Haiti, you know, Central and South America, you name it. Every part of the globe was present at the border that particular night that we were there.
The drop-offs, a way to alleviate crowding at the crossings. But the DHS Office of Inspector General, an internal watchdog group, found that during a 17-month stretch, 177,000 address records for migrants processed and released into the U.S. were blank or did not contain legitimate locations.
Crisis level situation in December when over 300,000 migrants were processed in 31 days, a record high. That has changed dramatically. Governor Abbott will certainly take credit for this, saying that his razor wire, the shipping containers, and the other barriers are having a meaningful impact in deterring migrants. But it is also important to note that the Mexican government has recently ramped up enforcement in the interior of Mexico, deporting more migrants to southern Mexico, to the southern state of Chiapas, and also slowing down U.S.-bound migration. So it is a confluence of factors, not just one.
Yeah, we're also seeing that they're catching illegal migrants on ranches and human smugglers. One source told me that they arrested a cartel smuggling guide this weekend who smuggled illegal immigrants into Texas, and then they realized that he was wanted for murder in Mexico.
Let's call for a federal declaration of emergency.
The Department of Homeland Security conducting an assessment of the city's handling of the migrant influx. A senior DHS official familiar with the team's findings telling NBC's Julia Ainsley the team found the city has no exit strategy to see that migrants find their way out of its shelter system.
Customs and Border Patrol sources say that they were nearly 1,100 illegal crossings in the San Diego sector on Sunday, 97 Chinese nationals and 91 Turkish nationals. The House Homeland Security Committee expected to mark up articles of impeachment against DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas today.
Texas has been under the spotlight for weeks now because of its dispute with the Biden administration over how to handle the influx of migrants at the southern border.
But new data shows that the flow of migrants crossing into the U.S. illegally has largely shifted away from Texas.
Well, it's got to be a law that fixes the problem, right? I mean, we know right now that the president has the authority to secure the border under the same laws that President Trump made the securest border that we've ever had. So it's time to get back to the basics, and H.R. 2, by every estimation, will fix the problem.
Let me switch gears, ask you about the Oversight Committee, because Eric Schwerin, one of Hunter Biden's former business partners, is going to appear before the House Oversight Committee for a deposition today. Schwerin was considered Hunter's point person for their Chinese business deals and was even called the money guy. He also served as the financial advisor to Joe Biden and helped him file his tax returns. It's interesting that he was a financial advisor for Joe Biden and also the money guy for Hunter Biden's deals.
It is interesting. Republicans 4 months ago would not give funding for Ukraine, for Israel, and for our southern border because we demanded changes in policy. So we actually locked arms together and said, we're not going to give you money for this. We want a change in law. And now it's interesting, a few months later, when we're finally getting to the end, they're like, oh, just kidding. I actually don't want a change in law because it's a presidential election year.
Charging him with refusal to comply with the law and a breach of public trust. We are talking about this right now with South Carolina Congressman Russell Fry, a member of the House Oversight and Judiciary Committees. Thousands each day is outrageous, Mike Johnson said. The number must be zero. However, Oklahoma Senator James Lankford says Republicans are rejecting the bipartisan border deal because it's an election year. That's what he said. This is a Republican. Watch this.
And so it's really shameful that this is allowed to perpetuate, that the secretary has known for months, if not years, the problem, and he refuses to fix them.
Meanwhile, the El Paso and Rio Grande Valley sectors respectively average between 500 and 800 daily apprehensions. The Del Rio sector recorded as few as 200 each day.
If Texas is helping to erect barriers, putting up razor wire, doing other things to keep illegal aliens out, I want to be helpful with them doing that.
A Customs and Border Protection source tells Fox News that crossings in the border sector, including Eagle Pass, dropped significantly from December to January. And a majority of crossings are now happening in Arizona and California, not Texas.
While many continue to arrive at border crossings.
Was it a rough journey?
Yes.
How many days?
2 days. My husband beats me anytime. I want to make my life better.
I think this is something that we can kind of all agree on in some way. We are very for legal immigration. We want to welcome people into our country with open arms, but we do believe it should be legally. We think they are more than welcome. Just do it the right way.
There's no problem if I go to Chicago. Thank you.
CBP calling the drop-offs standard procedure. Dozens of people filing off 3 buses in San Diego, the majority adult men, carrying a backpack of belongings with documents in hand.
Dude, they got kids with them too.
Oh my God, there's a child.
Holy shit. This lady's just collapsing.
Heather and Steve, more states this week have pledged to send manpower and other resources to the border. And while there is apparently progress in terms of Congress's plan to hatch out a border deal, there is some evidence that recent changes at the border might be having an impact.
Where state and city leaders continue to pressure the Biden administration for help.
Meanwhile, the problems caused by the border crisis continue to play out. Immigration and Customs enforcement officials announced an operation that rounded up non-U.S. citizens in 25 major cities who had been accused of serious crimes. Officials also confirmed a Daily Caller report that an al-Shabaab terrorist was released into the U.S. after crossing illegally and not caught for about a year. Governor Greg Abbott announced he'll host 14 other Republican governors. It's as more red states vow support for the state of Texas's efforts, with the state essentially nudging out the federal government from areas like Shelby Park and Eagle Pass.
In a statement saying in part, CBP is working according to plan and as part of our standard processes to quickly decompress the areas along the southwest border. A Border Patrol agent telling NBC San Diego about 700 migrants were there on Wednesday, waiting along the border fence.
In Dripping Springs, west of Austin, the collective of people known as the Take Our Border Back convoy rallied Thursday. The group is traveling to the border for protests of the federal handling of the crisis.
Some setting up camp there while the nearby border crossing is temporarily shut down.
They're illegal aliens.
I keep reminding everyone that no matter how well we do to get people out the system, if we have that amount of people that are continuing to come through the front door, it is going to be hard to keep up.
The concerns also growing thousands of miles from the border in New York City.
Immigration is a federal problem. It calls for a federal solution.
But critics say it's proof of an oversight and a strained system across the Department of Homeland Security. CBP explaining that migrants are released near transit centers when non-governmental aid groups are at capacity and after consulting with local governments. Group released by Customs and Border Patrol at a local transit center to figure out the next steps in their journey.
Help us decompress people at the border so that we're not getting 3,200 people through our front door.
Losing track of asylum seekers as they wait for immigration hearings.
The convoy is not the only group headed to Texas's southern border this weekend. In addition to Texas's hardened response, Mexico has increased its enforcement. Crossings do typically slow in colder months.
They're illegal aliens. I've seen the boats here like 5 times, but I've never actually seen them do it.
Shocking footage shows adult male migrant dropped at California border. Migrant crossing fall sharply along Texas border, shifting to Arizona and California. Migrant crossing along the US-Mexico border have seen a significant shift from Texas to Arizona and California, with approximately 60% of all illegal border crossings now occurring in these states, according to internal federal government figures obtained by CBS News. While overall illegal crossing has decreased since a record high in December, the geographical distribution of immigrants for flows has changed markedly. The Tucson sectors in Arizona and the San Diego sector in California are now the busiest regions for illegal entries, recording over 1,000 daily crossings each. In contrast, the Texas border, the largest among U.S. states, has experienced a sharp decline in migrant crossing, particularly in the Del Rio sectors, which was the second busiest in December. The shift in migration patterns is evident in Eagle Pass, Texas, where daily illegal crossings have dramatically decreased due to fortified barriers and National Guard in development. Governor Greg Abbott attributes Texas' resistance to decline, emphasizing the need for resistance in Arizona and California.